Okay, so now that we all have this section sorted out, and you should have made corrections where you needed to based on what your neighbor found when they checked it, now we're going to work on lining up trees over here. Now I'm going to make trees, and that's what I want you to practice. But just know that on your final drawing, if you want to have, instead of trees, if you wanted to have a fence here, or you wanted to have big billboard signs over here, or you wanted to, be in the desert and have a cactus over here, that would be okay. But for this moment here, we're just going to be practicing this using trees. And the reason I want you to do this is because this is such a great example of how we can use all of those techniques, placement and size and value, to create this illusion of depth when we have a row of something like this. It just really creates the illusion so very well. So that's what we're going to practice. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to start with my guidelines that I'll be drawing the trees inside of. So this first guideline is going to tell me how tall my tallest tree will be. Okay, and then I don't want my tree trunks to be sitting right on the road. You don't see that very often. So I'm going to make another guideline pointing to the vanishing point, coming all the way up to the front of my paper. Okay, and so my trees are going to be just on the side of this last guideline that I drew. Now I'm going to start with the one that's closest to me. I'm just going to draw this one. And I don't want you guys to, think too much about how you draw these trees. When we start worrying a lot about that, we kind of lose the whole point. So I'm really going to ask you for the time being to just make this, a really simple elementary style tree. Okay. It's just a trunk and a big leafy top. Now I'm going to move back behind it a little bit, and I'm going to make my next tree. Now this is where it gets tricky, and a lot of times students start making their trees slant and lay down. So then it looks like wind blew through here and just blew everything down. So we don't want that. One thing that I think is helpful is if you map out where your trees are going to go with your ruler, and then you're eyeballing it again, making sure that you're keeping it parallel to the side of the paper. So I'm just going to make these little guidelines, and I'm basically going to end up building my trees around these guidelines. Okay. Now, as they get closer to the vanishing point, this amount of space should be getting smaller. So in other words, they kind of look like they're getting closer together. They're not actually. That's just the effect of things getting smaller as they go into the distance, even the spaces in between. Okay. So now these are guidelines for my trees, but this might give you a good idea of how you would make a fence. If I was making a fence, I would build the logs for my fence here, and then I would start connecting them. And I have another video in your reference materials for you on that. So coming back to my trees, I'm just going to use those guidelines and build my trees around them. And I know that I'll be able to erase all of those later. Each one is getting thinner and just smaller all the way around. And there's overlap, right? So this one is in front. It's covering some of this one. This one is in front of this one, so it's covering some of it, and so on, as we are working our way farther and farther back. Until as you get back in the back, it's going to look so small, you're barely going to be able to see anything. And that is okay. All right. So I would come in and erase all of these lines. The horizon, you would not be able to see through these trees. You guys know that. And these guidelines I would get rid of. Including this one here at the top. Don't leave that. That gives away our secret. Okay. So you want to get rid of those, and then you may have to come back through and clean things up. I feel like this isn't quite as low as it should be. It's a little better. And then, oh, I've got more to erase, but then I could decide, is this going to be a sidewalk, or am I going to get rid of that line? Because remember, I added this one to create my trees. Now, if I want it to be a sidewalk, that could look cool. I could do that by making horizontal lines. I'm making sure that I'm keeping them parallel. And they need to be getting closer together as they go into the distance. And I'm using my clear ruler to help me with that. I can see the last line was here. And then the next line, I'll make a little bit closer. Okay, so I would just carry on with that, drawing those all the way to the back. Okay, so these are the main things that I need for you to show me that you can do with 1 point perspective.